Welcome back. Well, I don't know if you know this, but for the past 17 years, September 10th has been observed as World Suicide Prevention Day. It was started by the World Health Organization, which estimates, listen to this, that someone in the globe takes their life every 40 seconds. Well, this morning, survivor Sharon Fekete shocked her community of friends and clients in Tampa. Were welcoming her to the show this morning to share her story. And she's written a book, and she reveals her secrets and struggles with depression and attempts at suicide when she was growing up. Now she has two successful businesses and is joining us this morning to not only talk about her book, but what I love the most is providing hope for people as well. Sharon, thank you for spending some time with us this morning. I know this must be an important day for you as well.
Oh, it's been an important week. It's been an important year. I think the more that we talk about suicide and mental health, the more we normalize it and give everybody else an opportunity to not always feel like they have to be a top notch every day, especially right now during this pandemic. So thank you for the opportunity to discuss it today.
Yeah, and I feel like when you do have, when you know a family or friends or someone who has taken their life, that's one of the first things you hear is, wait, I didn't know that they were struggling. It seems like this big secret. How do we get people the help? How do we talk about this more, Sharon?
So I'll share with you my own personal experience about that. When I was 21 and I got sober, I'm sober 26 years now, thank God. I was lucky enough. I don't think everybody has the same story. That's why I always say this has to be about my personal experience. My parents were both in the medical industry. My dad worked at New York Hospital. He had an EAP counselor. I was 21. I just came home from a horrific, traumatic blackout. I mean, I stayed in Detroit, Michigan for 2 years. My family not knowing where I was. So it's a pretty traumatic story. And when I got home, of course, I was depressed. I mean, here I was now. I had no alcohol, no drugs in my system. It was just my brain. So I thought there was something really, really wrong with me. And I'm glad you brought up that point that most people go, I had no idea. I asked and she seemed okay. But nobody was asking me actual questions. So when I went to this EAP counselor of my father's at New York Hospital, he asked me if I was having suicidal thoughts. And that was the beginning of the end of isolation right there, because I was able to verbalize yes, and then I got the help that I needed right from that moment.
Do you encourage, whether it's parents trying to talk with their children or friends talking with other friends? Is that a specific question that needs to be asked more? Is that part of your message?
Well, it saved my life. I'm sitting here 26 years later with an immense amount of gratitude that this therapist asked me that question. Everybody asked if I was okay, or why don't you go outside and get some exercise? Maybe, you'll be fine. But asking those specific questions are really, really so vital. So yes, I highly recommend that if you have a family member or a child even, asking that direct question of, are you having suicidal thoughts, will then give you the opportunity to get the right help needed in place. Like for me, I went to see a psychiatrist right away. I got on medication. Thank goodness I was only on for 6 months because I also had a support group around me. I had the love of my family, and I was in a 12-step recovery program, which I'm still a part of today.
Yeah. We've been showing this Lifeline, this number to call for people watching today. And again, I think that we have an awareness day. I think it's fabulous. It's just the beginning, but this is something that should be talked about, quite often. What is the message that you want people to really know? Obviously, you've written a book about this. You talk about this a lot. What is the main message and the take home for people?
That you're not alone. I don't really think that there's anybody today that hasn't been touched in some way by mental health or addiction. So many people have lost loved ones to suicide or overdose. We have to normalize talking about mental health. We can continue to say stress and anxiety, but really the issue is that we're having mental health issues. So if we want to, cross that barrier, I often say that when I give my book to people, sometimes they'll take it and they'll turn it down because they don't want anybody to think that they're having an issue with mental health because it says it on the cover of the book. So we have a lot of work to do in normalizing having these kind of conversations then it won't be so bad when we are struggling, where we can say, not just at home to our parents or our family or our loved ones, but in the corporate sector as well. There needs to be more of an open dialogue about mental health, because we're spending most of our time at work today, whether it be virtual or in person, socially distanced, we're still spending most of our time working. So we really need to talk about it more.
Well, and I wonder, I mean, I feel like that's been the buzzword of 2020 is isolation and people being by themselves. And maybe it's more of a reason to reach out to your loved ones and friends and ask those tough questions and make sure that they're not just okay, but better than okay.
Yeah, I mean, community is huge. And I know that, people have said things like, I've had enough Zoom. But, really, if we didn't have this technology to be able to connect and express how we feel and ask somebody else how they're doing, like, really, how are you doing? Looking at them, I mean, we can still get the same amount of feedback even via Zoom.
Yeah, it's better than a text message. All right, as we get ready to close here, how can people find out more about your story? We're showing this number as well, which I think is so crucial that if anyone is struggling or wants to talk about these things, this is a great place to go to. But where would you recommend people start?
Well, I mean, my book is on Amazon, The Broken Road to Mental Health in Life and in Business. I'm also doing an event on World Suicide Prevention Day. It's free. It's on Zoom. You can find it on Eventbrite. You can find it on Facebook, which is at The Broken Road of Mental Health in Life and in Business. You're not alone. That's what I want everybody to know. You're not alone. There's hope.
Thank you for coming on our show and spreading that message and providing that hope for people. We're so glad to hear that this has been your story and that you are willing to share it with others. And keep us posted, okay? Because we know your journey is far from over, and we'll be excited to see where it continues to lead you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. And of course, we'll put more details on our website too on where you can find all of that.